Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about color schemes. We've already talked about mixing colors using the primary colors and making values of colors using blacks, whites, and grays. So now we're going to talk about specific groupings of colors, also known as color schemes. You should be familiar with a couple already if you've been paying attention. If you were in my class and I told you to pick a color scheme for a painting, I'm basically asking you to select some particular colors that you're going to use in your painting, and only those colors can be used. And you can change the values of those colors, that's fine, but you have to stick to the colors. So maybe you want to create a painting using primary colors. Well, you should know at this point that that means you're going to use yellow, blue, and magenta or red. And you have to stick to those colors. Here's an artist who did, Pierre Mondrian. All right, so that is an option if you wanted to do a painting with a primary color scheme. Another option you could have for a color scheme would be secondary colors. And if you've paid attention, those are the greens, the purples, and the oranges. And you, just like the primary colors, you would use only those colors in your color scheme, and you're certainly allowed to change the values of those colors. And then if you probably know where I'm going with this, paid attention, right? Then you've got your tertiary colors, which are all the colors on the wheel, except for brown, that are in between the primary and secondary colors. So if I wanted to create a painting using tertiary colors, I'm going to have a lot more options. I just have to make sure I include them all if that's what I'm committing to. Hopefully this makes sense. All right, let's try something different here, because those you know, like the back of your hand. Okay, so what if I said pick a triadic color scheme? Or maybe you told me you wanted to pick a triadic color scheme. Basically, you're committing to picking three, which is why that's what tri means, right? Tricycle, three wheels. So you're basically committing to three colors, but they are equally spaced apart on the color wheel. So essentially, the primary colors are triadic, so you could pick those three colors. The secondary colors are triadic. But if you were going to pick those colors, I would just say I'm using a primary color scheme or a secondary color scheme. So I would more apt to use the word triadic if I was going to use the intermediate or intermediate or tertiary colors, which would be the ones that are in between. Now remember, they have to be equally spaced apart when you're using them. Okay, so if I selected these three, they would work. If I wanted to select this one, this blue violet, then I'm jumping here. Okay, so they have to be connected, kind of think triangle, equally spaced apart on the color wheel. And maybe when you were in elementary school, you learned about warm colors. Warm colors are the oranges and the reds and the yellows. You certainly could commit to that. Now, if you're going to use a warm color scheme, chances are you're going to evoke a sense of warmth in your work. Hey, did you know that like fast food places use warm colors? A lot of them do in their logos because they're trying to get you thinking about warm and delicious food. Delicious, who knows? Certainly not home cooked, but they do that on purpose. They use warm colors in their logos to evoke a sense of warm, yummy food. Good to know. How about the opposite of warm colors would be cool colors? Now, if you look at the color wheel, show you over here, the warm colors are on one side together, all right, and the cool colors are on the other side. They're on the top there. So if you committed to cool colors, you're going to be using the blues and the greens and the purples in your painting. Here's a word that should look familiar, the scheme, monochromatic. And remember, we had said before that the word mono means one and chromatic means color. So if you said that you were going to do a monochromatic color scheme painting, then you are committing to one color only. And remember, you can make different values of that color by adding white to make tints, black to make shades, or grays to make tones. And you think that might be hard, but it's not, because the values allow you to have more contrast in your work. So here's an example of a monochromatic painting done by Pablo Picasso. And you can see where he's used the color blue and he's just changed the values of blue. So it's not like you feel like you're missing out on anything. You can see everything just well. And they're not natural colors that you would normally see, but it's a monochromatic painting. So it can be done. How about complimentary? Do you know what complimentary means? Hey, do you ever give somebody a compliment? You make them feel real good. You make them feel like they stand out, like they're somebody special. Well, colors can be complimentary. If you look at the color wheel, complementary colors basically are the two colors on the wheel that stand out the most from one another. And so they're going to be opposite each other. So if I'm looking at blue, the color furthest away and most different from blue is the orange. These two are opposite each other on the color wheel, and they are complementary colors. So you could pick any color that's on the wheel, and you could find its complement by going directly across. Yellow and purple are complementary colors. All right, so they're directly across each other on the color wheel. They're very different from each other. They complement each other nicely. Sometimes people will use complementary colors in a logo design, like, hey, SU, the logo for SU, the colors for SU are blue and orange. I went to college in Rochester, Nazareth College, and ours were purple and gold or yellow. Okay. Those were our colors, so they're complementary. And people will choose to use complementary colors on purpose because they do like that high contrast. So here's an example of a painting by Edvard Munch, The Scream. You might know this one. You've probably seen this one before. There's a lot of blues and oranges in there. So that's a pretty good example of complementary colors in a painting. And the last scheme I just want to mention to you today is called analogous. And analogous colors are colors that are kind of next door neighbors. They're neighboring colors on a color wheel, usually between 3 and 5 colors. So if you were to take 3 colors or up to 5 colors side by side, those would be analogous. So just think of the word neighbor when you think of the word analogous. Here's an example by Vincent van Gogh, some sunflowers that he painted. And he's using analogous colors, these 5 together. See it? All right, so that's just a little bit of an overview of different options you would have and different color schemes that you could use in a painting. I want you to be aware of them because you're going to have a little assignment where you do have to pick a color scheme. Hope you guys are doing great. Miss you lots. It's kind of quiet here, lonely. Take care.